This is an overview of how the bank program works. The bank program allows a user to perform operations such as creating accounts, withdrawing, depositing, and transferring money between accounts, as well as printing account balance and showing transaction history. The user will perform those operations by interacting with the console to perform the different operations chosen. There are 7 different classes in the program, which I'll briefly summarize the operation of. The first one on screen here is the program class. The program is the main control center of the program, which holds the core set of instructions for starting and running the bank application. It manages user interactions via an enumeration defined within the class here as menu option. It calls methods from other classes to do things like create a new account or find an existing account, or you can also do things like transfer between accounts, deposit to an account, or do a withdrawal. The next class along is the bank class. The bank class manages the creation and retrieval of individual accounts for the program and holds a list of transactions performed on the program for later viewing. So add account is used to create a new instance of the account class, whereas get account retrieves an existing instance of the account class so that you're able to view details of that account. The account class itself represents the individual bank accounts, where each instance stores a customer's name as well as the balance of the account. So the constructor here, when you create a new account, will require you to input the name of the account as well as the balance which you'd like to start with. The account class itself also includes some inbuilt validations to ensure that deposits and withdrawals occur in a safe and expected way. Where something goes wrong, an exception is raised, and printed to the console will be what the exception is. So for example, highlighted here, the exception raised if you are doing a deposit is that the value must be higher than 0. Onto the transaction class. The transaction class is an abstract or base class for the different transaction types performed in the program. So for example, you can see along the top we've got the withdraw transaction class, the deposit transaction class, and the transfer transaction class. The transaction class itself has some validations included to make sure that transactions occur in expected ways, and otherwise it'll throw exceptions where something has gone wrong. So for example, if a transaction is being attempted, however, the transaction has already occurred by the executed field being set to true, then a new exception will be thrown and it will say that, no, sorry, you can't do that. The transaction has already been executed. But the transaction base class, the subclasses of transaction, which transaction being the base class, which we'll see in a moment, will inherit behaviors from the transaction class to do things like track the execution, which we just spoke about, and also do things like handle reversals. So if I just move on to the withdraw transaction, the withdraw transaction is a subclass of transaction which executes a withdrawal to a given account. It includes some inbuilt success tracking and also includes rollback in case there are any errors. And as mentioned before, it inherits behaviors and therefore it integrates with the transaction class for the sake of logging transactions and viewing them at a later point. So the deposit transaction class is very similar to withdraw, except instead of doing a withdrawal, it will handle a deposit for a given account. It includes the same built-in success and rollback, and it integrates in a very similar way to the transaction class, inheriting behaviors, and you've got the ability to also track deposits which have happened on an account in the same way as the withdraw transaction class. The transfer transaction class is, again, another subclass of transaction. which manages transfers by performing sequential withdraw and deposit transactions. Both the withdraw transaction and the deposit transaction have to succeed in order for a transfer to be complete. Otherwise, a rollback here will occur. So the withdrawal has to succeed and be executed, as well as a deposit succeeding and being executed.